The European Union's General Data Protection Regulations, GDPR, went into effect on May 25th in an effort to protect the privacy of European Union residents. What does it do and will it work? Here to discuss is attorney and global privacy expert Myles Edwards. Myles, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate that GDPR allows EU residents to access their collected information and have the information amended or even deleted. How does that actually work, and what else does this regulation do?
Well, first of all, thank you, Bart, for inviting me on. What it does is, well, first of all, I think we've all seen the implications of GDPR already. You've probably already have received an email saying, do you consent to receiving this information? Do you consent to still being on our list? So one thing to keep in mind is that for U.S. firms especially, you don't need to have a physical presence in the EU to be subject to it. If you store data or you have clients in the EU, you are subject to it, and vice versa. So many American citizens already have been receiving email requesting consent from European Union firms that they may be doing business with. And what's really important about that is read exactly what type of consent you're doing, and in addition to that, you're going to find that with it is a privacy policy for the firm. So it's extraordinarily important to read over this information because it's going to give you a sense of what the new GDPR is going to look like for you.
Myles, I've wondered, and you may have just answered the question, but I have been getting a lot of additional consents, and I didn't know if those were just general privacy updates related to the whole Facebook Cambridge Analytica scandal that they were in the U.S. So you think maybe a majority of these things that are coming are actually coming from Europe with regard to GDPR?
Absolutely. I mean, we live in a global environment, Bart, and even though you may not think you're conducting business or that a European Union firm has your information, most likely it does. And so because GDPR became effective on the 25th of May, right now we're seeing an influx of emails being received by U.S. citizens. So again, read it over, and if you have any questions, part of the GDPR is it's incredibly democratic. It now allows individuals to have control over their data. Not only does it allow you to petition that firm to find out what data they have on you, but it also allows you to control the way that they use the data. And it's incredibly liberating. In fact, I have never seen a privacy regulation that is so broad and is so consumer-centric as GDPR.
It's sort of amazing. I wish they would do what I know you do in your life as an attorney, and I used to do on Capitol Hill, is give you a nice red line of what it was before and what is it now, because they are so long and complicated. But your advice, Myles, is good about reading it. If you have problems, can U.S. citizens take advantage of this also? Can you actually seek to see what information they have, and if it's incorrect, have it updated or deleted?
Well, to a degree. You're not going to have all the rights that a European Union citizen would have, but you do have some rights. And one thing to keep in mind, Bart, as well, is that the United Kingdom, even though they have technically removed themselves from Brexit, is still abiding by it. And so sometimes you're going to see a situation with certain Scandinavian countries, which may not be technically European Union countries, and the United Kingdom is still abiding by it. So it's extraordinarily important to pay attention to this. Now, what's also interesting as well is that with any sort of privacy regime, there's a bureaucracy. So individual states within the European Union have the ability to moderate and revise a GDPR. Now, they can't lessen the restrictions, and they can't lessen some of the robust protections, but they can certainly add to it. So I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a long road of GDPR. And for American firms, for American financial firms, again, I advise them that even though you may not have a physical office somewhere in the European Union, if you store data there or you have clients there, you're absolutely subject to it.
Two things. One, there was that initial data protection initiative back in '95. That seemed to go no place because they didn't have strong enforcement. It sounds like this one does, Myles. And do you think that the lawmakers in the U.S. may look at this, at GDPR, and emulate those provisions to some extent?
I think they're going to have to because, again, we live in a global environment. In 1995, 23 years ago was a little bit of a different situation because the regulators did not have the infrastructure, the manpower, or the technology to enforce it. And right now, we're finding that the regulators are coming on par with their constituents, which are primarily the firms that they regulate. So I think we're going to see a lot happening with GDPR. Also, individual consumers have a private right of action. So now you can legally avail yourself of going against those firms if in any way they violate your rights under the GDPR itself. It's a fascinating regime. And one thing that has interested me most, Bart, is Article 22, which says that you have a right not to be subject to basically what they call automated decision-making, which is AI, and profiling, which means that if you apply for a loan and a machine decided you're not getting the loan, you have the right for that loan to be reconsidered by real people. And you have a right not to be profiled, which means that not to have all your information aggregated in order to make a decision. And I think Article 22, if you ask me what the most important provision of the GDPR is, it's one that we haven't been talking a lot about, and that is Article 22. It's going to impact the way firms do business, and it's also going to redefine how we view artificial intelligence, how it relates to us, and how it relates to our relationship with financial institutions.
Myles, thank you so much. We hope you'll come back as we move forward on this issue in the U.S. Attorney and global privacy expert, Myles Edwards, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Bart.